The first red flag should have been when Diana, my mother-in-law's best friend, pulled me aside at last year's party. "Honey," she whispered, wine glass in hand. "Margaret's been different since the divorce. Maybe this big reunion isn't the best idea." But I was too caught up in my plans to listen. 8 months of secret preparations, coordinating with relatives across 4 continents, and managing a budget that made my accountant husband, James, wince, all to give Margaret the one thing she always claimed she wanted: her entire family together again. I found the old photo album in Margaret's attic while helping her declutter, her word for moving her designer clothes into a bigger closet. It was filled with pictures from the last big Matthews family reunion in 1985. Margaret looked so young, surrounded by siblings, cousins, and relatives who'd since scattered across the globe. "Those were the days," she'd sighed, tracing faces in the faded photographs. "Before everyone moved away, before the family fell apart." She didn't add before Robert left me for his 28-year-old yoga instructor. But I heard it anyway. That's when the idea took root. Margaret's 65th birthday was coming up, and what better gift than reuniting her beloved family? I should have remembered that my mother-in-law's nostalgia was as carefully curated as her social media presence. The planning became my second job. Late-night calls to Australia to coordinate with Margaret's younger sister, Helen. Early morning Zoom meetings with cousins in Italy and Brazil. Endless email chains about dietary restrictions and hotel arrangements. James thought I was crazy, but he kept our joint account funded and his mouth shut. "Mom's not great with surprises," he warned one night. "Remember our surprise anniversary party for her and Dad?" I did remember. Margaret had shown up with her tennis instructor as her date, knowing full well Robert would be there with his new wife. The resulting scene made the local gossip columns. "This is different," I insisted. "This is about family, not drama." Oh, how wrong I was. Everything was set for the perfect surprise. The Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom was booked for Saturday. 45 relatives were secretly flying in, some having never met their American cousins. Helen even convinced their estranged brother, Thomas, to come from New Zealand, the first time he'd be in the same room as Margaret since their fathers contested while reading in 1999. Diana had been my inside source, helping coordinate Margaret's schedule and keeping her from making other plans, or so I thought. The text came at 7:43 a.m. on Saturday morning, just as I was heading to the hotel to oversee setup. "Darling, spontaneous opportunity. The girls and I are taking a cruise to the Bahamas. Last minute thing, couldn't resist. Don't wait up. Love, M." I stared at my phone, wondering if this was some elaborate joke. Then Diana called. "Catherine, I'm so sorry," she began, her voice heavy with what I now recognize as guilt. "I should have told you sooner." "Told me what, Diana?" "Margaret booked this cruise 3 months ago. She showed me the tickets at Bridge Club. She said she knew you were planning something for her birthday and she didn't want to deal with any forced family bonding." The world tilted sideways. 3 months ago. She'd known for 3 months and still let me keep planning, keep spending, keep hoping. I pulled into the hotel parking lot, where James was already waiting. One look at my face and he knew. "Mom?" he asked simply. I nodded, showing him the text. His jaw tightened, the same expression he'd worn during his parents' divorce proceedings. "The first guest land in 2 hours," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Helen's whole family is on a plane right now. Thomas is probably already in New York for his layover." James ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so much like his mother's, it hurt to watch. "So what do we do?" I looked at my phone again, at the dozens of messages from excited relatives sharing their travel updates. At the hotel entrance, where the staff was already setting up welcome signs. At the photo album I brought for the memory table, filled with images of a family Margaret claimed to miss but had actively avoided for decades. "We have 45 people coming to celebrate family," I said slowly. "So let's give them a celebration they'll actually enjoy, without the guests of honor who never wanted to be honored in the first place." James's eyebrows shot up. "You want to have the reunion without Mom?" "Why not? Her siblings haven't seen each other in 20 years. Some cousins have never even met their American relatives. Second cousins don't even know each other exist." I felt energy returning to my voice. "Your mother might not want her family, but maybe her family needs each other." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a message from Helen. "Just landed in Chicago for our connection. Can't wait to see everyone, especially Maggie. The kids are so excited. I showed James the text. Should we tell them? He stared at the message for a long moment, then straightened his shoulders. Nothing like his mother's posture now. No, he said firmly. Let's give them the reunion they came for. Mom made her choice. Again. We walked into the hotel, where tables were being set with fine linens and old family photos I'd collected were being arranged on display boards. In 3 hours, this room would be filled with people sharing the same blood as Margaret Matthews, but possibly carrying very different hearts. Diana, I said into my phone, I need you to send me those cruise receipts. I think it's time everyone knew exactly when Margaret decided to abandon her family. Again. The party was about to become something very different than planned. Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones where the expected guest of honor reveals their true colors by not showing up at all. The first relatives arrived just as I finished rearranging the welcome banner to read Matthew's Family Reunion instead of Happy 65th Birthday Margaret. Helen burst through the hotel doors, her 3 teenage children trailing behind, their Australian accents mixing with excited chatter. Catherine, she embraced me warmly. Where's my sister hiding? I can't wait to see her face. The moment I've been dreading. I pulled Helen aside while James distracted the kids with promises of the hotel's indoor pool. Helen, there's something you need to know. I showed her the text and Diana's revelation about the cruise tickets. Helen's face moved through a kaleidoscope of emotions, confusion, hurt, anger, and finally, a resigned understanding. Oh, that's so Maggie, she sighed. Always running away when things get too real. Did I ever tell you she missed my wedding because she found a can't-miss spa weekend at the last minute? Before I could respond, a familiar voice boomed across the lobby. Is that little Helen Matthews I hear? Thomas, the estranged brother, stood in the doorway, looking exactly like his photo, except for the silver threading his dark hair. Helen's eyes filled with tears. Tommy? She hadn't seen her brother since the will-reading disaster. You actually came. While he smiled, I was promised a dramatic Maggie meltdown. Speaking of which, he looked around the lobby. About that, Helen said, linking her arm through his. Our sisters pulled a classic Maggie. But you know what? Maybe that's exactly what this family needed. Over the next hour, the hotel lobby filled with Matthew's relatives from every corner of the globe. Cousins who'd only known each other through Facebook met face to face. Second cousins discovered shared interests and uncanny family resemblances. Children who'd never met formed instant bonds over shared traits like the distinctive Matthews laugh. I watched from the registration table as James explained his mother's absence to each new arrival. Instead of the anger or disappointment I feared, most reactions were knowing headshakes and eye rolls. Aunt Margaret hasn't changed a bit, said Maria, a cousin from Brazil. She RSVP'd to my daughter's wedding last year, then claimed her dog was having emotional problems the day before. Remember when she promised to host in '99? Thomas added, joining the conversation. She sold her house 2 weeks before and moved to a 1-bedroom condo. So sorry, no room. As more stories emerged, a pattern became clear. Margaret's absence wasn't shocking. It was on brand. Diana arrived around noon, clutching a large envelope. I brought everything, she said, looking guilty but determined. The cruise receipts, the group chat screenshots where she bragged about avoiding the reunion, and something else you should see. She pulled out a stack of declined RSVPs from over the years. Weddings, graduations, baptisms, anniversaries, all sent by Margaret. All with perfectly crafted excuses. She keeps them, Diana explained. Like trophies. Says it's easier to avoid disappointment by disappointing others first. James took the envelope, his face unreadable. You've known about this collection. Diana nodded miserably. She called it her boundary maintenance system. I should have said something sooner, but she was your friend, I finished. Was? After seeing all these families together today, watching them heal without her, I can't keep enabling this. The ballroom was alive with laughter and conversation. Helen's kids were teaching their Italian cousins Australian slang. Thomas was showing old family photos to a group of fascinated younger relatives, filling in gaps in their shared history. Should we tell them about this? I asked James, gesturing to the envelope of evidence. He watched his Aunt Helen hugging a cousin she hadn't seen in 30 years, both women crying and laughing simultaneously. No, he decided. Moms spent decades making sure everyone remembers her absences. Let's give them one day to forget about her and remember each other instead. As if to prove his point, someone started playing the piano in the corner, a Matthews family tradition. Soon, voices joined in familiar songs taught by grandparents who had passed, but whose legacy lived on through shared memories and melodies. You know what's funny? Helen said, joining us by the registration table. I came here hoping to reconnect with Maggie, but I've forgotten how much I miss everyone else. Maybe she did us a favor. How do you mean? I asked. If she were here, everything would revolve around her drama, her divorce, her feelings, her needs. Without her, we're actually getting to know each other again. Looking around the room, I saw what she meant. Conversations flowed freely, unburdened by Margaret's careful social choreography. Real connections were being forged, without performance or pretense. Should we send her a thank you note? Thomas quipped, joining his sister. Dear Maggie, thanks for choosing another escape. You finally managed to bring the family together by staying away. As the afternoon wore on, it became clear that Margaret's absence had transformed from a potential disaster into an unexpected blessing. The reunion she never wanted had become exactly what everyone else needed. Diana's phone buzzed, another text from Margaret. Weather's perfect. Hope you're not all too bored without me. James took the phone and typed a reply that would change everything. Actually, Mom, we need to talk about some family photos that came to light today. The whole family sends their love. All 45 of them. Margaret's response came 3 days later, after her spontaneous cruise docked and she could no longer hide behind airplane mode. By then, family reunion photos had flooded social media. Genuine smiles, heartfelt embraces, and most importantly, not a single mention of the missing matriarch. Her first call was to Diana, who didn't answer. Her second was to James, who let it go to voicemail. Her third was to me. How dare you, she hissed when I picked up. You turned my entire family against me, made me look like the villain. No, Margaret, I replied calmly. You did that all by yourself, 3 months ago when you bought those cruise tickets. Silence crackled over the line. Then, Diana showed you those. Diana showed us everything. The declined RSVPs you collected, the group chats where you bragged about avoiding family events. Tell me, did you enjoy your cruise as much as you enjoyed knowing 45 people had flown across the world for you? I never asked for that reunion, her voice turned defensive. I never wanted. Yes, you made that very clear, I cut in. But here's what you missed while you were sipping cocktails on deck. Thomas and Helen reconciling after 20 years. Your great-nieces and nephews meeting for the first time. Cousin Maria naming her new baby after your mother. Your family healing without you. Another pause. They named a baby after Mom. The family you keep running from? They're still a family. They're just done waiting for you to show up. The line went quiet for so long, I thought she'd hung up. Then I heard something I'd never heard before. Margaret Matthews crying. I didn't think they'd do it without me, she whispered. I thought they needed me there to be a family. No, Margaret, they needed you not to be there. Without you orchestrating every interaction, controlling every narrative, they could just be themselves. Be a real family. James found me in the kitchen after I hung up. Mom? He asked simply. I nodded. She's upset. She's always upset, he sighed. But this time feels different. He was right. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. The carefully curated social media posts about her amazing girls' cruise stopped. The usual round of excuses for upcoming family events didn't materialize. Instead, Margaret went quiet. Then Helen called. You'll never believe this, she said without preamble. Maggie called me. Actually called, not texted. She apologized for missing my wedding. Said she was scared of seeing our parents together after their divorce. We talked for 3 hours. Similar calls came from other relatives. Margaret was reaching out, one burned bridge at a time, not with grand gestures or elaborate excuses, but with simple, painful honesty. I think, Diana told me over coffee, seeing those reunion photos broke something in her. All those people she'd been avoiding, having the time of their lives without her carefully managed drama. It was a wake-up call. The real test came 2 months later. Maria's baby naming ceremony was approaching, the first family event since the reunion. The invitation sat on Margaret's desk for days, according to Diana. The response when it came, Wasn't an elaborate excuse or a last-minute cancellation. Just a simple note. I'd like to come if I'm still welcome. No drama promised. And she showed up early, wearing a simple dress instead of her usual designer outfit. No grand entrance, no demands for attention. She sat quietly through the ceremony, watching her great niece receive the name Margaret Rose, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. At the reception, I found her sitting alone, looking at photos from the reunion on her phone. They look so happy, she said without looking up, without me there to complicate everything. They can be that happy with you too, I replied, just not the old you. She nodded slowly. I spent so many years running away from family obligations that I forgot why I was running. It was easier to be the dramatic absent relative than risk being the vulnerable present one. James joined us, sitting beside his mother. You know, Mom, the family's planning a gathering. Smaller than the reunion, but I'll be there, she said quickly, then caught herself. I mean, I'd like to be there. If that's okay. Later that evening, as the baby naming celebration wound down, I watched Margaret tentatively join a conversation with her siblings. No performance, no drama, just three people sharing memories and gentle laughter. You know what's funny? James said, sliding his arm around my waist. All those years Mom claimed she kept every declined RSVP to maintain boundaries. Turns out she was really keeping track of everything she'd missed. I thought about the envelope of regrets Diana had shown us, seeing them now not as trophies but as receipts of loss. Sometimes people have to see what they're missing to understand what they've lost. Margaret was learning that lesson late in life, but she was learning. And maybe that's what family is really about, not perfect attendance or flawless performances, but the willingness to show up, even after years of running away, and simply try again. The reunion that happened without her had given Margaret something she never expected, the chance to be part of the family she'd spent so long avoiding. Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones that change us, even if we weren't there to celebrate.